Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. Before we get started, just to let you know, this episode's with my buddy Alex Hart. You may recognise his name because the last podcast I did with him was also a movie podcast, just like this one. This time instead of just doing like general movies, we're talking about our favourite movies of 2017. We have top 5 lists each. We have a few honourable mentions as well, so ones that we really liked didn't quite make the list, and also we talk about movies that we didn't like. To be fair, I didn't like a few movies, or I say didn't like movies that were like especially bad, but Alex only really hates one movie of last year, but quite early on in the podcast he does mention it, so there's not really much suspense or waiting to hear about that. But we do we speak about it a little bit at the start, but we primarily at the start do the top 5 lists, and then about the hour sort of mark we then just get onto our honourable mentions and the movies that we really hated. Me and Alex both run a movie Instagram page called I Am Movies. It should be in the podcast artwork, or the episode artwork rather, and anywhere that I post it on social media you'll be able to see it, and also be in the description. So it's quite easy to find, both if you just type in I Am Movies into Instagram, or if you specifically check all the info and see it. I think that's about it, really. Yeah, just this podcast, we pretty much exclusively talk about movies. And when I say pretty much, I don't know if we even talk about anything that isn't movies. So if you don't care about mine or Alex's opinion in movies, and you're not that into movies, well, I'll be surprised how you got this far, if I'm being honest with you. But yeah, just so you know, this is all going to be about movies. Next week's is going to be with my buddy Bradley. We just have a general chat. I recorded it a month or so ago, so I can't actually fully remember off the top of my head right now what it is. So it will be a surprise for everyone. Thanks as always for listening, guys, and I'll be back at the end. Welcome to Genuine Chit-Chat, where we have honest conversations with interesting people. And I'm your host, Mike Burton.
Fuck or cunt. No.
You can't say... So I'm guessing when we put up a billboard, you can't say shit, fuck or cunt. Or
that should be okay.
Ass? That should be fine then. Alright guys, hello. Welcome to another episode of Genuine Chit-Chat. I'm with my buddy Alex once again, and we're going to have another podcast about movies. So we're going to go through, in 2017, all our favourite movies, really. I mean... I think we're going to say what our top 5 movies are. We've got a few honourable mentions, and we've also got sort of what films we didn't like. There weren't that many bad films this year, I don't think. I think the majority of the films this year were just all really like quite meh. Somewhere between like 65% and like 80%. There's like most of the films this year were like, yeah, that was fairly good. I probably wouldn't go to the cinema or watch it again, but there's quite a few movies.
No, definitely. Like. But then the ones that do stink, they were truly fucking awful.
Well, yeah, but the film you hate the most this year was one of the films I liked quite a lot. So
yeah, obviously this is a diverse podcast.
Yeah, well, that's it. That's what it's all about. It's all about
only one of us can be right.
Fight to the death. Well, it's my podcast. I'll just edit out all the points that you make it sound like you're doing good films. Like, so Alex, why'd you hate this film? Well, and I'll just edit it in you saying something like farts or something.
Yeah.
And that'd be it. And then I'll come across and I'll like edit my own voice in. So I've like researched this and looked at loads of reviews, and you won't really listen to the podcast. It'll make it sound like I've done loads of research and I'm clever.
You'll take the parts that I say about Justice League and you'll swap it with another film, so it actually sounds like I'm praising Justice League.
I'll do it with like I won't spoil what you say your favourite film is yet, but we'll say like I'll put it as whatever you describe it, like this film. It's got all the plot you'd ever need. The characters are believable. Everything about it. I like how realistic the movie is, and then it's like I change it so you're talking about Justice League.
Yes,
I think that would be
Fishman. And
all right then, let's get started. So where would we like to start then? Should we start with? I think maybe a good thing would be kind of like each. Like
if we work down each, then we can talk about each one.
I was going to say, we can start in a sort of way, like we can start with the 5th one, and then we can also say one of the honourable mentions, and then kind of go like that. So here's our 5th favourite, but also here's another one which was close, sort of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So do you want to hit us off then? What do you think, in your opinion, of all the films? I want to clarify, sorry. We haven't, unfortunately, seen as many films as we'd like to. There's been quite a lot of...
this year.
Yeah, both of us have been quite busy with a few personal things this year, so we haven't been able, more so Alex than myself, but because he moved to Wales and stuff, as in the other podcast, so he's had a lot of stuff going on with his life. So he hasn't had as much of a chance to see as many movies. I mean, so we haven't seen, neither of us have seen that Moonlight movie that everyone bums and goes on about.
But technically it was last season, because it came out with last Oscar season. So again, like La La Land and films like that. It was.
Yeah.
So technically, we did. It's on Netflix. We can catch up.
Yeah, but before you say your one, I'll just actually quickly interject and say that I haven't. I don't think you haven't put Star Wars on your list, have you? No, but
No. I really enjoyed it, and I think like for what you're going to say, I agree totally.
Yeah, well, my thing was just I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I will just put a thing in here that if I was being true, I'd say Star Wars was the best film, but I don't actually think Star Wars was the best film this year, The Last Jedi. I stick with the film I chose as number one. But if we're going through films that we personally enjoy the most, which is more so what we're going for, it would be Star Wars. But it's just I'm such a massive Star Wars nerd that it almost doesn't matter how good other films will be because I just love the expanding of the lore and the universe. Yes. So in that regard, I love Star Wars. It would be number one, but anyone who knows me or listens to the podcast enough knows that I fucking love Star Wars. So there's just no point. So. Without me dribbling on, Alex, would you like to go ahead?
Yeah, my fifth favourite movie of the year was Detroit, I'd say. I wasn't expecting too much from this film. I think I enjoyed the trailer. I wasn't too fussed about seeing it. And then I watched it and I thought it was great. It was casted... it was a stellar cast the whole way through, and I was really engaged with the whole plot and the premise of what was happening.
Yeah.
And it really engrossed me, and I thought it was brilliant. I really did enjoy it. I think it took everything I was kind of concerned about it and thinking what kind of film it was going to be like.
Yeah.
And stripped that, and it became a really real film. And yeah, I thought it was absolutely, and it was shot fantastically. It was just really enjoyable. Really enjoyable.
Well, I agree with you. I mean, Detroit is actually my number one film, funnily enough, trying to keep this all vaguely under wraps, some sort of tension, but obviously I failed miserably at that. I think Detroit's my favourite film. I'll go into it more when it's my go for number one, but I'll agree with everything you said there. I think Detroit, for me personally, was the best film of the year. As you said, I think the casting was perfect. I think John Boyega was amazing in it. I obviously love John Boyega because of Star Wars and Attack the Block. And then Will Poulter, he was phenomenal. He was the main sort of bad cop sort of thing in it.
Yeah, he's great. I love seeing him.
You hated him so much in that film, but he's such a nice guy. Like, there's a podcast with him and Scroobius Pip, which I really recommend because they talk about Detroit quite a lot. Will Poulter, he's also the one in We're the Millers.
He's great. Does the rap about the rain?
Exactly. Yeah, and he's in The Revenant as well.
It's great.
Everything I've seen him in, he's been absolutely fantastic in, and he's a very good actor. And I thought Detroit really hit home. Really, it was invoked more of an emotional response than anything else I've seen. But I'll get a little bit more into that.
It's fab. Yeah, no, I absolutely loved it.
So do you want to say one of your honourable mentions then?
Honourable mentions would be Get Out. I was going to put this higher on the list, but I think the response from everybody has just proved how successful it was. And I think obviously there's some other films that I think still need to be highlighted. So Get Out would probably have made the list, but just because of how much of a success it was to everybody and cinema. And Josh Peele who directed it?
Yeah, because I think Josh Peele, he's the one who was also in it. He was the friend who was like the comedic humour.
No, that's someone else. Yeah, it looks like him.
Oh, is it not the same guy?
No, not the same guy.
Oh wow, man.
But yes,
I'm racist.
He's and being known as a comic director and sort of everything he's done previously to Get Out was comical, and it has always been brilliant. But this was his first debut as making a thriller, and there was lots of comedy elements within the film. But it was just great, and like I said, it would have made the list, but I think everybody has agreed that this film's come out of nowhere from a first-time director of this type of film and just hit it out of the park. So I think giving an honourable mention is understandable, and like I said, there's other films that I think could just kind of nudged into the list.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, because the thing is, I realised when we were talking about this, because obviously we looked up some of the films and whatnot to try and rejig our memory of this year. My fifth film, or fifth best, is Get Out. I think I almost bought it and I didn't, and I kind of regret it, but I found it was... all the actors in it, every single cast member was absolutely fantastic. Fair. I thought it was so tense and gripping the whole way through. You really didn't know how it was going to go. I won't spoil it, obviously. We won't be, just to clarify, we should have said at the start, we won't be spoiling any of these films, we won't ruin anything that happens in any of them. Except Last Jedi, I'll quickly spoil it now. No. Quick, everyone dies in the whole film. Yeah, there's not even going to be a ninth one. No. Get Out, I thought was fantastic. I thought all the acting in it was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was really... the thriller, obviously, it's kind of... when it was marketed, it was like, is this a horror or what is it? But it's definitely more of a thriller, kind of psychological, and also it's very racially fueled, which has been quite a common theme here, obviously with Detroit as well, and with Get Out, and both of them are phenomenal films, and both really hit home. So anyone who hasn't seen Get Out, if anyone likes any kind of thriller, or even if you're not that into thrillers, it's just, I think it's one of those core films which can almost appeal to anyone because it's so brilliant, even for its genre. You would appeal to people who aren't necessarily into horror and thriller films that much. But
I don't think I've seen a bad review for it. I think everybody agreed that it was a fantastic, just performance-based.
It's one of those
thriller.
Films. Yeah, it's one of those films where in that genre you kind of. It's almost impossible to say it was a bad film because in that, like in a comedy film, loads of people got different tastes. You know, action films, a lot of people say they're all the same. Star Wars and other really big blockbusters, there's always fans that are split over them. But with Get Out, it was a thriller, and if you do the thriller right, then you've done it stellar. You know,
They did.
So yeah, I agree. My honourable mention, which was very close, was I'll say this one would probably be The Disaster Artist.
Oh, fantastic!
Is one of my. I thought that film, because obviously we've both seen The Room, and I actually did. I won't go into Disaster Artist too much because I've done a whole podcast about The Disaster Artist with Tom. But I thought, Disaster Artist was hilarious. It really makes me like the movie The Room more.
It's fab.
Oh yeah, and the acting, James Franco, character acting is phenomenal.
He did so well.
And the whole film, the way it was all made, it's heartwarming and it's funny, but it's one of those films you need to really see The Room to really appreciate it.
I don't think you need to see The Room though. I've loads of people have seen it and they haven't seen The Room. Even my favourite reviewer, Chris Stuckman. I think it's Chris Stuckman on the other one. Jeremy Giles. He's not seen The Room, but he just understood the film, and I think because obviously they're making the film in the film, so I don't think you necessarily need to see the film to understand it. You can appreciate it more, and there's lots of stuff you'll appreciate from it. But I think also if you went into it not knowing The Room, you would really get a grasp for this guy.
I kind of look at it in a similar way that I would describe watching The Force Awakens in a way, where you can watch Star Wars The Force Awakens without seeing any of the other ones, because it all does make sense without them. But I just feel like the viewing experience is maybe even doubled when you've seen the other ones.
But you get something out of it that's different, but I think you can definitely still enjoy it.
I think you can. I would just say there's almost no point, because if you watch it, you're going to probably want to watch The Room anyway, and then you'll go back to rewatching Disaster Artist. And I think The Room is so obscure, it's kind of better to see The Room without knowing anything about it, apart from it's terrible. And then once you've seen it that's terrible, then you watch Disaster Artist to kind of explain it more. But obviously I've got no problem anyone seeing it before seeing the films. I just think that you'd enjoy it more. But yeah, you definitely can enjoy it without. Okay, so let's go on to number 4 then. Actually, do we want to say? Well, no, actually, I haven't got that many bad films, so I think I was going to save the bad films.
Yeah, I've only got one bad film. I'll let
3, but the 3 I've got you haven't seen. So.
I'll let off every bad film other than this one this year, so I'm going to save mine to the end.
That's
because
fine.
I can really roast this absolute pile of dog shit.
Oh god, we're going to disagree on this, but that's fine. Right, so number 4, what have you got?
4, I've got It, a Stephen King adaptation, which everyone was really cautious about. No one really asked for it. No one really wanted it. It got kind of more popular when they released the cast and the casting choices and what they were doing with it. And I think everybody kind of was like, yeah, okay. And then the first trailer come out and everybody's like, okay, I can get down with this. Then it come out and it was just like, they really did it well. Like, it was perfect mix. Like, it wasn't too horror based, but it was so... Stand By Me is one of my favourite films of all time. And to have a film which just kind of echoes the friendship and the battles that these guys are going through together, it's just fantastic. It was heartwarming.
Yeah.
It's a heartwarming horror story, which is odd to say.
Yeah.
But I think it was fantastic, and the cast did amazing. Pennywise was absolutely fantastic, and I was really worried about that because to stand on the shoulders of Jim, I can't think his name.
Tim Curry.
Tim Curry, sorry. To then perform as Pennywise like he does in this film, I think he's done such a fantastic and stellar job. Yeah. And it is probably, if not the best, Stephen King adaptation ever made.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of the other ones, because there's The Shining, which I actually don't like, the film of.
Which is probably, in Stephen King's eyes, his worst adaptation. He said he doesn't like The Shining,
Yeah.
and it's so far from the book that it technically isn't an adaptation of the book.
It's also like a reimagining of, isn't it?
Yeah,
What's
definitely.
the other Stephen King? I know Stand By Me is one, isn't it?
Stand By Me, yeah, that's the book.
I haven't seen Stand By Me.
The book's called The Body.
Right.
That film's absolutely fantastic. There's
got-
loads of films,
He's
old
got
school
the
horror
The
films.
Mist as well.
The Mist is great. Yeah, you've got Pet Sematary.
Mhm.
You've got there's someone.
Well, there's Carrie. There's Misery.
Misery's fantastic. Carrie's all right.
Have you seen a remake of Carrie?
Yeah, I've seen both.
What are they both?
Didn't
like?
really enjoy the first one, so didn't really enjoy the second one either. The second one was absolutely awful. The remake with
Yeah, see, I haven't seen either. The remakes with that girl in it. Is it Chloe Moretz? Chloe, the one from Kick-Ass.
yeah, that's the gal.
Chloe Moretz Love It or something like that.
I'm actually going to change my list now because of what we've just said and we're speaking about
Right.
for another film on my list, because we've just talked about Stephen adaptations. There's 3 Stephen King adaptations that come out this year.
Were they?
Yeah, so one was It, which was one that went to cinema, and then there was 2 that were Netflix original movies.
Oh yeah, I heard about one of them.
So I'm not going to say what it is now because I'm going to save that, but I'm definitely just going to rub off one of these, or make it just an honourable mention, because this film absolutely blew me away.
Well, I was thinking some of our honourable mentions, I realised, are each other's films. So
Yeah.
instead of ruining it for the rest of them, what we'll do, thinking about it now, even though it's kind of contradictory to the start, we should plan this a bit better. Sorry, guys. We'll talk about the honourable mentions after all of them.
Perfect.
Because there's quite a few
I'm
here.
just going to write it down so I don't forget.
Because it's just because there's a couple of honourable mentions, which one of my honourable mentions is your top 1 film, and I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah.
Obviously, Detroit.
We'll do that. That's the next thing.
So your 4th was it? Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
My 4th was Logan.
Fantastic, yeah.
And one of the reasons I found this, I was quite torn with Logan, because I mean this year for superhero you got Thor, Spider-Man: Homecoming, and Logan. They're all fantastic movies. But I found Logan for me really delivered exactly what everyone's always wanted about Wolverine. Some people I know still haven't seen it, and because a lot of people like my buddy Kieran and my brother Justin. They're both like, I'm just kind of sick of superhero films nowadays. I'm just kind of, there's too many of them, blah, blah, blah. And I get that, but this is not like any other. It's kind of like, the way I describe Logan to people is, it's basically, it's not even a superhero film. It's actually just like a kind of, what's the other word? What's the opposite of a utopia?
Dystopia.
That's the one. I couldn't think of the word. Damn it. It's like a dystopian almost kind of future, but it's like not too distant future, and it's very realistic. It's just one or two of the characters in it have got certain powers, and they balance it so well, and it's a real good standalone film. And I found that another thing with it is, what I loved about it is how brutal it is. It's not like glorified over the top violence for no reason. It's Wolverine is meant to be this untethered guy. He's got claws that are made out of like incredibly dense metal that can cut through everything. And we saw a clip of it in X-Men Apocalypse. There's that Wolverine scene. And X-Men, have you seen Apocalypse?
Yeah.
Yeah, Apocalypse, I didn't think it was that great of a film.
No, it's dog shit.
I just found it was basically Days of Future Past and First Class, but worse in every single way.
Yeah, definitely.
Except the Wolverine scene where he goes
mental. It's fab. Yeah, that's the alternative future, wasn't it?
Yeah, and he just brutalises everyone. It's amazing.
That's great.
Yeah, and in Logan I find it's tasteful amounts of violence. The plot is fantastic. The acting is amazing. And yeah, it hit all my expectations and beyond. Really.
Yes, definitely, I agree.
All I really wanted was basically, let's have a mixture between X-Men 2 and X-Men Origins Wolverine, but everything that was wrong with the two of them, get rid of, and make it more adult. And they basically just wiped the floor with it in a great way. So,
it did, and I think Deadpool should get a shout out just because that was the film that
was a catalyst on it.
They realised that they could make adult superhero films and they could be hugely successful. And the director directed the other Wolverine film, which was called The Wolverine.
Yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that.
No, and the director said himself that it wasn't the film that he wanted to make.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there was studio pressure and a lot of things that restricted him.
Yeah.
And he wanted the Wolverine to be like Logan, but he couldn't.
Yeah.
And then, obviously, Deadpool came out. Everyone went, oh, crap, you can actually make a really X-rated Marvel film, and everybody be like, oh my god, you can do it.
Because the worry is always that they want to always make everything a 12 so everyone can go see it.
12 is like the thing that means that they can get the most market from. But
yeah.
No, and then he had the chance to direct Logan.
Yeah.
And he just hit it out of the park. He did everything he set out to be and achieve, and it was fantastic.
I completely agree with that. So what's your number? You're number 3 now.
Mine's Logan.
There we go. That's perfect, isn't it?
Mine's Logan.
Nice and easy transition.
Yeah, so again, I absolutely love the movie. I think they did a stellar job. They hit it out of the park on ways that I didn't even think they were going to do, and I think they just did what I've always wanted Wolverine to be like. He is an animal at the end of the day, with a human side, and they tap more on the human side than ever in this film. But then when they see this animal side of him, he is the Wolverine, and he is literally unleashed, and he can what he does, and when he does it, it's done so well.
Well, one of the best spin-off games, I don't know if you ever played it, was
it's fantastic.
X-Men Origins Wolverine Uncaged Edition.
It was so good.
It's like 18, and you like go away and you're just brutalising everyone. You're going around and just killing, and it's just like an 18. It's adult, and it's such a good game because it doesn't hold any punches.
It literally just. You can grab people, just cut them in half, and their heads off. And
Fantastic! It's like,
that's what he would do. Like, I've always made this point with Wolverine. He has these huge adamantium claws that he can literally just cut anybody to pieces. And how he's avoided doing that for all the other movies. He does it in parts. You can see things, but they've really toned it down. It's like, come on. Like, literally, if I had stuff like that, I would probably stab myself at least twice a day accidentally, and there'd be more blood than all the other films put together just from accidentally stabbing myself in the knee.
Just sneeze and slice her in
Yeah,
the leg.
exactly. And there'd be more blood than all the other films put together, which is bizarre.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, Logan, fantastic.
Killer.
Right, so we're on number 3 now.
Well, you're on 3.
Yeah, I'll say my third because we've already actually discussed it. As I said, we agree on quite a lot of these things. This year for films has been very much a lot of really okay to quite enjoyable films, but there's only really, I think, about 10 films this year that really stand out, and we agree on them quite a lot.
Yeah.
So my third one is It. Not to just repeat everything that you said earlier, but I found It was just phenomenal. I haven't seen the original because it's not a movie, it's 2 episodes.
It's a mini-series.
It's a mini-series, but it totals like 3 hours long. And 3 hours is a long time. You know, there's only a couple of... I know it's a mini-series, but it's kind of like a film. And it's like, the only films I've seen that are that long that are great is basically the Lord of the Rings films and Wolf of Wall Street. Like, I can't think of any 3-hour films that are actually worth the full 3 hours.
Director's cut of High School Musical 3.
Yeah, it's got some sort of horrendous like heroin sub story thing with like one of the members gets like addicted to heroin.
Yeah, Zac Efron dies in it.
Oh man,
he's brought back though. It's alright.
He's brought back.
Yeah, that's in the extras. You think he dies, and there's a half-an-hour extra cut of him coming up from the grave. It's a great song. It's a great song.
Oh Christ! He does like his own rendition of Thriller.
Yeah, it's basically that, but with Zac Efron and more basketballs.
Imagine how many people you could upset by creating a film with High School Musical 3 where Zac Efron dies, comes back and does Thriller. Like, that would upset so many people.
That'd be great. Be like a high school shooting film.
Oh God, yeah.
Set in the High School Musical world.
Are there any high school shooting films yet?
Yeah, there's one come out this year about one of the biggest ones ever. What's his name?
Was it Sandy Hook?
No.
As in the place.
Palmer. What's his name?
Sorry. Was this
Dharma? How'd you say his name?
Who? Are you talking about the guy from Norway? Not Norway. The European guy who went to the island and went to that kid's holiday place and shot.
No, this is at school. Let me
Google it. You movie podcast. Yeah, I'll keep talking about it then. But with It, one of the things I loved about it was that I'm not a big fan of child actors. You know, the only real films I've seen recently that I love, which have got kids in it, because normally they just piss me off, to be honest. Or over or underact. Well, Stranger Things, I think, is one of the best series out there. I think that's phenomenal. And South Park pointed this out, and I only realised it when I saw the South Park episode about it. But It and Stranger Things are almost the same movie. Like, you don't.
Yeah.
It's obviously they are different, but I know Stranger Things is also not a movie; it's a series. But it's basically kids fighting a bad, some sort of crazy evil spirit being thing, It's funny because one of the kids who plays Mike in Stranger Things plays a kid in It. And one of the things that struck me most about It, that made it so brilliant, was it's quite long for a horror film, but it doesn't feel long at all. it's the horror bits. They're really, really tense. They're definitely creepy and do make your sort of skin up on end. And you really, Pennywise is scary. He's really messy. Especially, I won't spoil it for anyone, but that starting scene, where everyone who's seen it will know what I'm talking about. It comes out of nowhere, and you're like, "What?" And as soon as within 5 minutes of the film starting, you know this film's going to be good. It's really going to hold no punches. And I found all the kids acting in it was absolutely fantastic. I love them all, and I found when it wasn't being incredibly dark, the light of it, when it was being funny, was so funny. Like, there was points when me and Callum went, I think, did you come with us? I can't remember.
I'm not too sure.
I can't remember either, but I know me and Callum saw it together, and I can't remember if we saw it with you as well, but the humour of it really got me.
They did
The
a
guy who
great job.
plays, I should really know his name, but I think his name might be Michael or something, but the guy who played Mike in Stranger Things, who's also in it, there's certain parts where everything's quite serious, and then he makes a joke about someone's mum, and it's obviously intentionally not funny because he's just like a 13, 14-year-old kid, and he puts his hand up to high five people, like, "Ha, yeah, like your mum," puts his hand up to high five, and everyone just looks at him, and it's like, when that happens, me and Callum are literally crying in the cinema when that's happening, and
it's so good,
and then it cuts, some really dark happens, and then it cuts back, and it's just,
it's the perfect way to do comic relief, not like Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, God. But I found, very funny film, surprisingly, really tense, and everything a horror film should be.
I think they did the thing with it. You've never seen the original It, the TV series. No. Okay, so probably most people will agree on me with this, who I've spoke to have seen the film. Okay, so obviously there's 2 episodes to the first film, both about an hour and a half long over that.
Yeah.
The first half, which has just come out as the first It, was always the strongest part of that film series or mini series. The first episode with the kids was always absolutely amazing. So they made this remake just as good or even better than the original. So obviously when this new one comes out, it's going to be taking the second part of the miniseries, which is always the weakest part of it. So I don't have any doubt in my mind that they're going to just improve what could have been better in when it first come out, because it is probably the slowest and more boring part of the original It film. Yeah. So I'm really, really, with how well they've done this film, I'm so happy in the direction that they're going. And once they've revealed the casting, I know that they're going to do a great job. I'm really happy, because to be fair, it stinks the second half. Like, there is redeeming factors of it, but I just know that they're going to do a really good job of it now.
It's one of those things where
I'm happy.
It was 27 years later, isn't it? That's kind of the...
Yeah, so...
It's like 27 years later, and all the kids end up going back somehow. I haven't seen the second part, so I don't actually know, and obviously we won't say what happens because it will just kind of half spoil it. But I think the next one, was it out 2019 or 2020 or something like that? Yeah, I'm
not too sure.
I'm just gonna quickly...
But they'll do a great job. I'm not spoiling anything when I say this, but the original ending of the original film, no one likes. It's the most stupid decision that Stephen King ever made. Right. So I'm really looking forward to them absolutely nailing the ending that we always wanted.
I was just going to say, I looked up the director of It because I was curious what else he made, if I'd seen anything, and he hasn't made anything else that I've seen. He's only actually made a few films, but one of the more recent films he made that a lot of people loved was Mama.
Mama,
it was direct. I think it was somehow co-made by Gil del Toro.
Yeah.
Gil del Toro was the executive producer. Yeah. But that was a horror film. I haven't seen that. Have you seen it?
This one with Jennifer Lawrence? Not Jennifer Lawrence.
No, that's Mother.
Oh.
No, Jennifer. This one has got. I'm just looking at the cast.
Yeah, it's the horror film with the 2 girls.
Chastain as Annabelle, Nicolaj Costa-Waldau as Lucas Dessau.
I've not seen it, but I've seen parts of it. It's a gothic horror film. Yeah.
You can't comment on a film if you've seen parts of
it. No. When it come out, they were obviously doing a lot about the director, so they showed loads of scenes from previous films that he'd done. Yeah. And obviously my sister's seen it. She really enjoys it. Mm-hmm. I know the premise of the film. I know the one you're on about with the 2 little girls. And it's like a gothic horror story.
Apparently, what they're saying, I've just looked up about the second part of It. Apparently they're aiming to release the sequel in 2019, September 6th. So it's almost exactly 2 years. And they said that... there's a few screenwriters sorted for it. I think they said they're going to start writing the script for it January 2018. We can expect that. We'll obviously hopefully if we can do this sort of podcast this year and each year, we can keep it all going. How long I'm doing this? Right. So I've done my third film. So this now film of yours, is this the original third you were going to say, or have you changed it? This third? Because you can.
No, I said Logan was my third, didn't I?
Logan was your third. Okay, so far...
I'm on second.
So just to clarify, so far, 5 I've got Get Out, then 4 I've got Logan, then 3 I've got It. And what have you got?
5 is Detroit, 4 is It, 3 is Logan.
Okay, pretty close then.
So very close. Yeah. So, no, I'm going to keep this film to an honourable mention.
Okay.
Just because...
We'll save that for the end then.
The other 2 films I've got on here, again, they just snubbed it out.
Well, go on then. Say, so we're on number 2 now, aren't we?
I'm on number 2. So one of my favourite films of the year, one that I truly enjoyed and thought it was an absolute masterpiece, was Dunkirk.
Yeah.
We had the discussion earlier of this film. There was 2 major war films that came out this year.
Yep.
Both were absolutely brilliant parts of cinema.
Well, let me just say, my number 2 is Hacksaw Ridge, which is the other. The 2 big war films that came out was Hacksaw Ridge and Dunkirk. So maybe for this bit we'll just discuss them both.
Yes, definitely.
So, go ahead. So with Dunkirk then, because obviously we were discussing this beforehand, and the thing was, I think Dunkirk, in my opinion, is probably a better film objectively due to cinematography, how unique it is, how different, and obviously Chris Nolan does a stellar job everything he fucking touches. Well, except Dark Knight Rises. Let's not talk about that. But I find that, me personally, I prefer Hacksaw Ridge as a movie. But if you want to go ahead, so what about Dunkirk really? What made you choose? Because I think Hacksaw Ridge is an honourable mention of yours, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely is. Like, I very much enjoyed that. But Dunkirk is the pinnacle of visual storytelling. I said this to Mike earlier, that there is amazing cast in it, but they don't rely on the cast superstardom to carry the movie. These are people stuck. These are portraying troops of our own that are stuck, and they don't have to rely on their star power alone and their acting abilities. They just can use these people, and a lot of these actors, I believe, obviously took this role knowing that they didn't want these massive epic speeches, they didn't want this huge epic moment. They just want to see their what these guys did for us and what happened as tragedy. They did.
Well, I was going to say, one of the 2 of the things with Dunkirk that stood out to me was, one thing is, you heard a buzz about it when it came out, was there's very little talking in it. I think the whole thing, if after seeing it, I think I said to someone, if I wrote down dialogue-wise everything, you could probably fit it on like 4 pieces of paper, probably. Like, and most of it, I think, is Kenneth Branagh's character.
For he's people probably got the most speak.
He's fantastic in everything I've seen him, really, except he wasn't as good as Poirot in Murder on the Orient Express. But he was Poirot in the Orient Express, and the place people probably know him the most is he played Lockhart in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Yeah, that's him. He's everything I see him in, he's really, really good in. He was fantastic in that. Obviously, Tom Hardy was good, but my only criticism was kind of the opposite of what you said, which was, I love Cillian Murphy, who was the PTSD-stricken soldier who got picked up on the boat. And Tom Hardy was flying obviously flying the plane. They're both 2 of the best British actors I think I've ever seen. And I find that even though there were loads of other actors given opportunities, which I quite liked, so the main guy in it, there's no main one because like 3 or 4 things going on at once, but the guy who you see the most trailers, I think, who has the most screen time, I haven't seen him in anything else. You know, the main one who's... He's the one who starts off at the start and he's running away from the battle.
No, I'm not sure I've seen him in anything.
He might have been in a few other things, but I like it. I like it in films when there's a big film coming out. Obviously, Nolan's a huge director. And they use people who are massive. Obviously, sometimes you need a couple of cornerstones of massive people to kind of make sure people who are a bit unsure go, oh, this person's in the film, I'll go see it, like with Tom Hardy and Cillian Murphy. But what I liked, what they did with the new Star Wars films, with mainly the new trilogy, is, you know, they used Adam Driver, Oscar Isaac, Daisy Ridley, and John Boyega, who hadn't been in much, really, or anything at all. And with this, they had a few actors in who hadn't been in anything else, who did great jobs, but they also... I found that with Cillian Murphy and mainly Tom Hardy's role, I found Tom Hardy's role could have kind of been done by anyone. But, as you say, you can kind of use that and say, yeah, it could have been. So they kind of used his name a little bit, but it just shows that they weren't relying on, oh, the whole film's crap, but Tom Hardy's really good in it. Because Tom Hardy's role is so small, even though it's a big role in terms of the story, in terms of him actually acting, as he's in the plane the whole time, pretty much, he's got the mask thingy on. So all you really see is his eyes. So you don't... It is kind of... You can look at it in perspective, either...
But that is acting, isn't it?
Oh,
It's just a different type of
I'll
acting.
tell you what surprised me about Dunkirk so much is how good Harry Styles was.
Yeah, definitely, and I
Like,
think
he's really good in that.
yeah, he's really good, and I've seen him in a lot of stuff recently.
Oh,
Especially,
really? What other stuff's he been in?
he performs quite a lot on the Late Late Show with James Corden.
Oh, does he? Oh,
And he
okay.
does a lot of stuff with that, and actually, like, to be fair to him, he has made me chuckle a few times, and I think he should get a few more roles, and I do think he's actually an alright bloke.
Well, it's like Justin Timberlake, for example. He's a huge singer, obviously, and some people don't like his acting, but I think he's fantastic.
Oh, if he's great.
Social Network, I
he's
know that's one of your favourite
he's a
films.
type role, but
Yeah,
fair enough, like...
But that's Will Smith. He's one of the biggest actors in the world. He's a tight role. Like I've said before, I think I said in one of the other podcasts, it's Will Smith has three. There's three versions of Will Smith that you get. You get angry Will Smith, which is I Am Legend, I Robot, that sort of thing. You get happy Will Smith, which is Fresh Prince of Bel-Air and Men in Black. And you get sad Will Smith, which is £7, Concussion, and Pursuit of Happiness. And there's no problem with that, because I like Will Smith, think he's a great actor, but he only seems to ever do those three ones. It's the, hey, joking around Will Smith, or I'm dead serious, I hate everyone because normally family members died. And also then there's the, I'm really sad, the world's downtrodden on me. And obviously a lot of people would go, well, that's three main character roles. There's not really anything else you can do with that. But then I could argue, you go with DiCaprio or Tom Hardy, and they're different, and Cillian Murphy, and they're different in every single role you see them in. But yeah, I would agree. Dunkirk was in my honourable mentions. I will say also, for those who don't know, I'm going to post this on the movie page as well. Me and Alex, we spoke about this a little bit, where I've given certain reviews to certain movies, and then after time of thinking about them and seeing other movies before, like Logan, I only gave that, I think, 86% on our... We have an Instagram page, for those who don't know, called I Am Movies. We review movies. We generally post every other day sort of thing. Depends how many films are out and stuff. We go see new films, steelbooks, blah, blah, blah. Loads of other stuff we post about. And, with Logan, I actually gave that less than I gave Wonder Woman and Spider-Man. Because I think I gave Wonder Woman and Spider-Man about 88%, but I gave Logan 86%. But I rewatched Logan a couple of months ago, and after time to absorb it, I've really thought it's probably close to 90-91% for me.
Yeah, definitely.
So just to say, if anyone does follow us on Instagram and stuff like that, we'd love if you guys go check that out. But if anyone already does follow us on Instagram and is looking and go, what the fuck, Mike had Logan as like 86 and he said Wonder Woman's worse than Logan. It doesn't consistency. It's just like, sometimes you watch a film at the cinema and sometimes it takes a little bit of time to kind of absorb it, or sometimes it takes another time to rewatch it to realise how good it is.
Definitely.
But yeah, I found Dunkirk was fantastic. But if I segue that onto my one, which was I think Hacksaw Ridge personally is better, but not objectively necessarily. I think they're both fairly even. But one thing for Hacksaw Ridge I found the start of it. Your criticism of it was, I would say your criticism of Hacksaw Ridge, why you think Dunkirk's sort of better, and I'll kind of defend it a bit.
What if I say what I think?
Why in your opinion would you say Dunkirk takes place as opposed to Hacksaw Ridge? And I'll say sort of the opposite, why I think Hacksaw Ridge should take it. So like, what about Hacksaw Ridge were you not as...
Well, I love Hacksaw Ridge, I'm not going to lie. Like, I think it's a fantastic movie, but I've seen it done. I've seen it not done better as such, but it's glamorized in lots of ways. The visuals aren't as strong. The acting's fantastic. I really like the acting. It's an amazing story and what they portray and how it is, and especially what happens at the end. I think that's an amazing way. But I think I've watched so many war movies. I've seen Hamburger Hill. I've seen Apocalypse Now. I've seen every probably war movie you can think of. Bridge Over the River Kwai, whatever it's called.
Jarhead, Commando.
Well, no, not those type of films. God no. No, I've seen the real war movies. When you go around your friend's uncle's house and he's just all the DVDs have got of just old school war movies. Those ones.
That's quite specific.
So when I go see a war movie, I want it to be different, and I want to have an experience that isn't the same. What Hacksaw Ridge does and has achieved is amazing, and I think it's done a lot better than most war movies. But Dunkirk, just because of what it was and how visually and the sound editing. So Dunkirk was a new experience for me. I hadn't seen most war films do something like that for me. And then, like I said, Hacksaw Ridge was amazing, but I've seen it done. I could predict what was happening. I think the story's amazing, and what the guy overcomes was absolutely fantastic. But I wanted something different, and that's what Dunkirk gave to me, which was a different type of war movie, different type of storytelling, which is great. And and that's what I wanted.
Okay.
So going into it,
That makes sense. Yeah, as I say, I think if I looked at them both purely objectively, I'd say they're both pretty even. But I'd probably say cinematography wise, as a film, because it's so different, because of that, the sound and the visuals on Dunkirk are next level. I'll give you that. But for me, I found Hacksaw Ridge also, guys, is on Netflix at the moment. At the very least, UK Netflix. I'm not too sure about US Netflix, but it's on UK Netflix. I can't recommend it enough to people to go see it. With me, I found it's both Dunkirk and Hacksaw Ridge are like retellings of stories that actually happened. You know, it's obviously, so it hits home for a lot of people. And I won't spoil what happens in Hacksaw Ridge, but right at the end of Hacksaw Ridge, which makes it sound like I'm about to spoil it, I promise you I won't. It has, right at the very end, like 5 minutes before the credits, it comes up with interviewing people who were basically the characters in the film, but they were actual real people. So there's certain stuff that happens, once again, I won't spoil, there's certain stuff that happens in it, and then you watch it and you go, oh, that could be, you know, a dramatic over-dramatisation of it, because that does happen quite a lot in these sorts of films. And then you have these people who are the actual soldiers who were there at the time at Hacksaw Ridge, and they're talking about certain things that happened, and they're like, yeah, this happened like that, and this happened like that, and you're watching it like, and then one of the main a lot of the main characters are in it are actually still alive, and they're spoken to, and it's just like, they talk about how their experiences and how it all went, and you're watching it like, I've just been blown away by this film, which for me, I'd say the last hour of that film is probably the best war cinematography I've ever seen, bar maybe the start of Saving Private Ryan. And when I put the review out for Hacksaw Ridge, I said that I think it's as good as Saving Private Ryan. If not, I might even argue it's better. Maybe. It's a very, very close one for me, because I just found the end hour of Hacksaw Ridge is just so good and so gripping the entire way through, and it's so heartwarming in a way. It really hits home. It's just, it's so human. That's what I loved about it, and it's just, it starts a little bit slow, and I was a bit, I had my apprehensions, but it really, for me, it was just, it was unlike anything else. I was not expecting it. I went in, because it's so easy in a way to make an okay war film, and I haven't seen a huge amount of war films, because I find in general, kind of the same vein as you said, is a lot of the time they're quite similar, in a lot of ways. And Dunkirk obviously really succeeded in being completely different to a lot of them, and that's really, I really do, that's one of the things I appreciate about that film. But man, I thought Hacksaw Ridge, it was top of the game of that genre. So I'd say maybe it didn't do anything that different, but I think that what it did do, you can't really get better than that.
Yeah, I agree. I really enjoyed it. But so I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it, but then when I watched it when it came on Netflix, I enjoyed things that I didn't enjoy when I was in cinema more, and then there was things that I saw that I didn't enjoy as much when I rewatched it. I don't know when the last time you rewatched it.
I've only watched it once. I saw.
See, I would recommend watching it again, because, like you said about the visuals of the second half, in my own opinion, for that last war scene of it, there's quite a lot of sloppy filmmaking in it.
Okay.
And not saying the film's bad or anything, it looks fantastic, but there's lots of things that I'm like, it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen for me. And I think it's obviously different when you watch it from the big screen and you watch it on the small screen, so you can pick up on smaller details. But I just don't know. There's a lot. It's a lot of shine. There's a lot of gloss. It is glamorized, a lot of the stuff in it. There's the blood in it is very much all over and stuff, which is amazing. Like, it's a war movie, that shit happened. But like I said earlier, there's a lot of it in it that I think, it's a little bit more glamorized than I'd think I would want in a war movie. I understand it's got to be epic, it's got to look the part. So the decisions that they've made in the film is to make it look that extra epicness. But I think they could have toned down on a few of the visuals, and it'd have been like, to be fair, like Saving Private Ryan, the start of it is so bleak, and just everything, the only colour that is really perforating the visuals in that film is the blood and the gore, which is like amazing. But there's a lot of the stuff, it's kind of the same in Hacksaw Ridge, but there's also a lot of gloss on everything else. So it's like, okay, that didn't hit home as hard because lit up this, or that's lit up more, or that it's too light, or in that aspect. So that's what one of my qualms with Hacksaw is the gloss.
That's totally understandable. Obviously, I've only seen it the once, and there's something I've mentioned, I might have said it in the podcast, I can't remember, but it's basically called cinema syndrome. And it's kind of like, when you go see a film at the cinema, a lot of the time it seems way better than it actually is, because it's almost the atmosphere of it. You see it on this gigantic screen. You've got all this surround sound. You've got loads of people around you. You paid a bit of money as well, which can sometimes influence you a little bit more.
The jokes seem funnier.
Yeah, and obviously when there's loads of people around you laughing, it seems funnier. When there's something big happens, like the new Star Wars, something shocking happens, and everyone gasps, and it's like the atmosphere of it all is very. It's different to when you sit at home, and obviously when you're watching a film for the first time, you're having to absorb everything, including the plot. But once you've seen it the second time, you don't have to pay attention to the plot as much because you already know. So that's when you can pick up on the little details, which obviously I think you've done with Hacksaw Ridge, but I haven't had the chance to rewatch that or Dunkirk. So yeah, it's perfectly fair enough. But I think we're both saying both films are definitely worth a watch.
Oh, they're both amazing films.
I'd say those two and Saving Private Ryan. I'd probably argue are the three best war films. I'm not sure they're ever made because I haven't seen Apocalypse Now or Hamburger Hill. And I've heard a lot of good things about them. But if I take off, unfortunately, because I haven't seen those two, if I just don't include those two, I'd say those three, Saving Private Ryan, Hacksaw Ridge and Dunkirk, are three of the best war films that you can see. And I think the three of them work quite well together because they're, even though Hacksaw Ridge and Dunkirk are similar-ish in a way, not Dunkirk, sorry. Hacksaw Ridge and Saving Private Ryan are similar in a way. They're still all three different enough to really be appreciated as the three kind of top of the game war films. I don't know if you agree because you've seen a lot more war films than me, but
I'd say Platoon and Apocalypse Now.
Yeah, Platoon is pretty concrete. It's pretty like.
I like Rescue Dawn. That's one of my favourite war movies.
I haven't seen Rescue Dawn. I've seen Platoon, but I haven't seen Rescue Dawn. Platoon obviously has that the famous scene with, I think it's Willem Dafoe in it, where he's getting shot slow motion. That's been parodied in 100 things I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay, right. Yeah. Let's get out of the war films now. We've got our last two big films, and then we'll get onto some honourable mentions and some of the shit films.
Yeah.
Okay, so go on then. Actually, no. I'll say my number one film because we've already discussed it. So my number one film is Detroit. As we said before, I think no film. Alex is a bit ill, by the way. If you keep hearing coughing and stuff, I'll say I've probably said it in the intro to be honest with you, but he's a little bit ill. He managed to drag himself over here, and he's been all right. We got a Greg's and had some coffee, and I had some coffee.
It's wearing off now.
He's been drinking loads of cloudy lemonade. So my favourite film, I'd say of the year, Star Wars, was Detroit. I went in there and I was like, this is going to be a cool film, and it hit me so hard. And I've never seen a film which has emotionally affected me that much. I came out of that movie, I came home and I was livid. Like, the film was so good, it was making me so angry, and it's a almost purely racially driven film of the sense of it's about, I think, the 1970 Detroit riots. It's quite funny actually. The last our best films, Hacksaw Ridge, Dunkirk and Detroit, all three of those are based on real events, and it's quite funny, that how brilliant they are as films. But I found Detroit, when you're watching it, it's tense, it's gripping, you don't know what's going to happen in it, and then also the fact it's real, and it does that thing that I love in films too, where it's like, this is based on a real story. Here's actual facts about what happened after the events of the film, and it's just, it hit home with me so hard because it's all about a lot of the institutionalized racism and how people got away with being racist, especially with police brutality, and where obviously in the media, especially the last couple of years, and how it's become so much to light. There's so much, as I said, institutionalised racism among the police force, among just people in power. And this film really, it doesn't show how it got started. It kind of shows how it started to turn around, and where people stopped accepting it as much, and where people started to try and stand up against the police brutality and what happens when you do. And I just, the whole film, I'm definitely gonna have to buy it because I haven't actually owned it yet. But
it's an amazing movie. I love it.
Well, it's just like that and Hacksaw Ridge and Dunkirk. I mean, Dunkirk's shorter than Hacksaw Ridge and Detroit, because I think Detroit's about just over 2 hours. I think Hacksaw Ridge's like 2.5 hours. I think Dunkirk's only about an hour and 40 minutes, isn't it?
It's not as long.
Not that long. But I found that some of those films, like Hacksaw Ridge, Detroit, and Dunkirk, they're so hard hitting, and they're so they're so hard hitting. There's almost no other way to put it. That a lot of the time I don't almost want to rewatch them because
it's hard.
They do lose. Well, they not only lose their punch a little bit when you've seen them once before, but as you say, some of them are like there's certain scenes in Detroit, I won't say what they are, but some of them are really hard to watch. Like, I'm fine with gore, and, you know, the new Saw film came out this year, Jigsaw, which we'll talk about a little bit in the end as well. A lot of horror films, I'm fine with gore, and I'm fine with, you know, there's a film called Mother that came out this year that I didn't think was that great, but there's some horrendous stuff that happens in that film, and I was alright with it, but in Detroit, some of the stuff you're watching is just like, Jesus Christ, you can imagine being in these sorts of situations, and I think that's what the best filmmakers can really do, is the empathy of it. Because if we go back to Chris Nolan, because obviously he made Dunkirk, you know, you watch Dunkirk, there's certain parts in it, and you can, there's a bit on the boat, I won't spoil what happens, but it's when Cillian Murphy's on the boat and stuff, and what happens then, and you're just like, you really feel it. And with
Definitely.
Yeah, with Detroit, Hacksaw Ridge, Dunkirk, you've got that feeling that really the best directors do it, and Chris Nolan did it in Interstellar. I think there's that bit where they go down to the planet and they come back, and it's been like 40 years or something ridiculous, and the way the characters talk to each other, the way it's all shot, you really feel it for it. You know, it's so empathetic. You really feel it with deep within you, that like sense of emotion. And when you get the films like Detroit, Hacksaw Ridge, Interstellar, that sort of thing that can invoke that, it makes the film better for you, but also worse, because you're like, I haven't seen Pursuit of Happiness. I've seen a lot of it, but I haven't seen the whole thing. And it's like,
Yeah.
I know how good it is, but I also know how it's going to make me feel. And it's a little bit off-putting, because like, life is pretty fucking depressing as it is a lot of the time. I don't need to watch 2 hours to make me feel even worse.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, Detroit, I agree. I feel, in my own opinion, Detroit is the new generation of how everyone perceived American History X. I think
it's funny you say it, because I got that for Christmas and I haven't watched it yet.
I know. I cannot believe
If
that film is your top film of the year, you'll watch American History X and think, okay, I'm going to scrap that. I'm going to go back to 1997 when it came out, and that's going to be my favourite year of that film.
Yeah, because I know generally what it's about as a vague idea. I know about the scene in it, the curb stomping thing. I haven't seen it, but I know about it. But there was a film as well, which was I know it's not quite the same, but Imperium. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe
We watched it together.
We did. Yeah, that was it. I couldn't remember, because there's so many films we keep saying we're going to watch together, and then you bloody piss off and move to Wales and leave me by myself. I'm just joking, but Imperium's a great movie as well. Everyone should go watch that. It's a cool movie about the Nazis, and when Neo. It's not about the Nazis, because it makes it sound like it's in the 40s. It's like
neo-Nazis.
So
yeah,
it's really, really good, that movie.
But yeah, American History X is what you should watch now. Going on.
Yeah, I've got to still. I'll be watching it soon, so anyone who's listening to this can expect. I'll try and watch it soonish and put a review up on our movies about it. So that leaves us to your number one film then, Alex. Go on.
My number one film is 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
You've got such a cold. Do you want some more airwaves?
No, it's fine. I'm fine. I'm going to have a drink.
Outside of 3 Billboards Outside of Ebbing, Missouri. God, I can't even say it now.
Which I love the director. When I saw the trailer, I was like, this film is going to be amazing.
It's Martin McDonough, I think his name is.
Yeah.
And he made In Bruges, which is one of the coolest movies I think ever made. I love that film. And Seven Psychopaths, which Seven Psychopaths is amazing, but
it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I think for me personally, out of the three, I think In Bruges is the best, then 3 Billboards, then Seven Psychopaths, to be honest, now I've thought about it a bit.
Yeah. I love In Bruges as much, I think, as 3 Billboards.
Yeah.
There's things that I prefer of each movie, but
yeah, I think In Bruges is a bit more comedic. I think In Bruges has got. I think In Bruges is more. It's harder, because I think 3 Billboards is a lot darker, but the way it's very hard to explain, because they are very similar but very different at the same time. Because what that director does perfectly is he has really, really dark themes going on and being spoken about, and things happen, while also there's lightheartedness to it. And the thing
it's
in
just
Bruges,
human, yeah.
Yeah, the thing in Bruges, I won't spoil it, but In Bruges is kind of not quite a plot twist, but it's a reveal of what the big dark thing is. Whereas in 3 Billboards, you know from the get-go. But it's kind of like how in 3 Billboards it progresses and how it goes, whereas In Bruges is a slightly different way of showing it, you know? In Bruges is kind of like, this thing's happened, and what happens directly after it, whereas 3 Billboards is more like, this thing's happened, and how the community reacts to it, and how she put up these 3 Billboards, and how that affects what happened. I will say, but I'll let you talk about this a lot more, because you enjoy the film more, it's your number one film. But I will just quickly say that the film was released, I think, in America in November, but in England it's not really released until late December, early January. But we went to this thing, Odeon Screen Unseen, where you can see a film that's coming out in the next couple of months early, but you don't know what film it's going to be. And we did that. And we saw Three Billboards. I remember me and you were talking about it before we went. We're like, oh, I hope it's Three Billboards. And when the screen came up in the cinema, like me, you, and about 10 other people in the cinema were all like cheering for it.
Oh no, I was over the moon. I really hoped it was going to be that. That was my number one film.
But yeah, go ahead. I'll stop yammering about it. Go ahead, mate. Say what you loved about it.
You've said most of it.
How dare you?
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. Like I said, I knew it was going to be good. I knew I wanted it to be. Like, I'd seen everything else he'd done, and I was just knew what I was expected. But there was so much in it, more than I ever thought.
Yeah,
was
same.
And I think they did so well. And they're just, everybody is absolutely brilliant in it, and it's so good. Like you said, the way that they can go from absolute darkness with some really disturbing stuff that
It's
they
way
cover.
darker than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah, definitely. The way that they can just drop it like a pin,
Yeah,
and just have these comical moments, which if you ever to watch some comedy films, it's always so forced, and especially dark comedies. But this, they do it in such, it's so human.
yeah.
I've
organic.
said this before, yeah, organic, because some films force it upon you, like a comic relief, like Jar Jar Binks was forced upon you to make you feel like you had to laugh to get the weight off of the shit film on you. But but no, they did it in this way, in such a way that it's like, it's just so comical. Like, there's only in this scene, there's nothing else you would do than do something like this. I think it's so human, and I think it's probably the truest way that some people deal with emotions, especially, is to do something stupid and make someone laugh, or say something like insulting someone is funny.
Oh yeah, banter has become the big thing, isn't it?
Definitely.
Recently, you know, we and you give each other shit all the time, so everyone does.
Definitely.
It's one of those, and I find I agree with you there. It's the humanness and the dialogue in all of his films, just like
it's just amazing.
Tarantino, Wes Anderson, his scripts are great, but the way people talk in Wes Anderson films is very Wes Anderson-y.
Yes, you know it's Wes Anderson.
Yeah, but you get films like Way Back or Little Miss Sunshine, and they're very much the way normal people talk. And then you get Tarantino and Martin McDonagh, or whatever, I can't pronounce his last name, but him, the guy who made in Bruce Three Billboards, and also Tarantino. The way the people talk is like, it's surreal in a way, where it is, Tarantino's a little bit more surreal, but it's kind of like, it is normal conversation, but it's between these two slightly odd characters in a way, where the conversation is normal to them, but not in a certain way. And the brilliance comes, especially within Bruce and stuff, is when you've got one of the kind of more quirky characters talking to someone who's more normal, and it, as you say, it's so human, it works so well.
It's just amazing, and the whole film is super enjoyable.
It's gripping the whole way through. You never know what's going to happen.
Oh yeah, and some of the character development in the film is just like
Sam Rockwell.
Oh, absolutely amazing. His story arc in the film.
Yeah.
It's probably one of the best story arcs I've ever seen in a movie. I think it's absolutely riveting. I think it's just,
it all makes sense.
It does all make sense.
None of it's stretch. None of it's like, yeah, I'm not sure if I believe this. It's all really believable.
It's all believable. And he's done absolutely. If I can recommend one movie you see this year, it would be that one.
Yeah.
And it's just brilliant. It's utter brilliance. That's what it is. To me, a movie that makes me laugh, but makes me also feel the feeling that these characters. It's just a masterpiece, and it looks amazing. The whole film looks stunning. It just is. It's such a. They don't need these huge budgets to portray what happens in the film, and that's the best thing about it. It's just so real, and it's in a little place that no one's ever fucking heard of.
Yeah, that's Ebbing Missouri.
And the people are just living their lives in this small little town, and when something like whatever happens in the plot, obviously it's going to affect these characters massively, because they're just normally living their lives in a small little town where no one fucking knows about.
Yeah, if some of the stuff happened, I think that's the point, isn't it? Because if some of the stuff that happened in that film happened in New York City,
oh yeah, it'd be totally different.
If, for example's sake, if someone dies right in New York City, there's so many people there. Someone dies every probably few minutes, and it's like it doesn't affect everyone, like the whole community. But as you say, when it's a small, tightly knit group and everyone knows everyone, when something happens, it really happens to everyone.
It shocks the whole system.
I just want to say a shout out to just Sam Rockwell of just like. He's one of my favourite. He's one of, if not my absolute favourite actor.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Him and James McAvoy, and Tom Hardy, I think, are my three favourites. But then again, Cillian Murphy and DiCaprio are phenomenal as well. They're all just Sam Rockwell, though, every single film I've ever seen him in,
I love him.
Loved
in,
him.
Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Well, Hitchhiker's Guide was probably my first ever favourite film, and still one of my favourites.
I love that film.
Him in that, he's in The Green Mile.
Great.
He's phenomenal. Moon. That's another
That's
film.
great, yeah.
It's basically just him and Kevin Spacey.
That's all it is,
Kevin Spacey's
yeah.
just the voice of the robot, and it takes a special kind of actor, like to have a movie that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours long, and there's almost no one else in it at all.
Yes.
And that is where it really, really shines for acting.
Yes.
And I just think Sam Rockwell, as you say, I agree with you wholeheartedly. His character arc and the way he acts in that film is perfect. I cannot fault with Three Billboards, even though it's not my number one film, and even though I do like other films more, it's one of those films where you can almost not fault it.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean it's perfect, but it does mean that you go into certain films, like there's the film Amelie. I'm not saying it's the best film ever made, but I couldn't change it to make it better.
Yes,
And
definitely.
Whereas a lot of other films, I know I keep talking about Star Wars, but like Star Wars, love the new Star Wars. I love most of the Star Wars films, to be fair, but there's always something I could change. All the Marvel films, I know they're slightly different genre, but so many films you watch and you go, that was amazing, but I wouldn't do this or I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Three Billboards, I don't know what you could change. I can't think of a moment in that film.
I can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to rewatching it as well, actually.
I can't wait.
So just a little recap before we get into the honourable mentions and the terrible movies, because we hit the hour mark, so I'll probably say if we talk about this for another half hour or so-ish,
Yeah.
and then that'll be a nice one big chunky podcast for everyone to indulge. So for me personally, as I said, Get Out's number 5, Logan number 4, It is number 3, Hacksaw Ridge is number 2, Detroit is number 1.
Yep.
Alex?
So I had Detroit as 5, It was 4, Logan was 3, Dunkirk was 2, and Three Billboards was 1.
That's
I know,
perfect.
even highlighted perfect on my sheet.
Nicely done. Well, yeah, I'll take a picture of that. Put it up. Perfect. Right, so if we just go on the honourable mentions then.
Yes.
Do you want to start us off? Mark?
Yes. So I want to go back to the film I nearly mentioned earlier, nearly put it on this list, split second, because I totally forgot about it. So we mentioned It was unbelievable adaptation of a Stephen King book. And then out of nowhere, Stephen King adaptation comes up on Netflix called Gerald's Game. And everybody's like, oh, okay, it's just another Stephen King adaptation. This film, holy shit. Like, I love horror films. And this film is absolutely brilliant. Like, there's not many people in it, because obviously I'm not going to spoil anything. I don't think many people...
I don't know anything about the film either. I haven't even heard of it before.
No.
You mentioned it to me, so I'm going to have to go watch this to check up my Netflix list.
So I watched it one night. I'd heard amazing things about it, and I thought, okay, I'm going to give it a go. And I can't... Unbelievable, the film is. Like, it's all basically... Not spoiling anything, because obviously once you start watching it, you understand. It's basically all in one room, and there's not many characters in it, but holy shit, this film is absolutely brilliant. Like, for a Netflix original movie, this is the best probably Netflix original movie I've ever seen, and is probably one of the best films I've seen this year, and that's saying a lot. The budget was small, but everything that's done in it is absolutely perfect. The conversations they have is human, it's comical in parts of it, it's scary, it's
Is anyone
gruesome.
in it?
Sorry?
Is anyone notable in it? Like,
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to have to Google it, because like I said, I wasn't prepared to talk about this film. I forgot about it.
Sprung it on yourself. Well, I'll just say, with Netflix movies, I think I haven't actually seen any Netflix original movies apart from Okja, I think is the only one.
Okja, yeah.
I know there's basically Adam Sandler's released a few films of his own, and apparently they're all absolutely atrocious. Like Ridiculous 6. I
Yeah.
think my buddy Tom saw that and he said it was absolutely terrible. I don't really know. There's that Bright movie with Will Smith.
Yeah, that's
you saw
very
the other day.
enjoyable.
Yeah, and you said it's really good, but it's not like next level amazing. But a lot
It's
of
very
critics
enjoyable.
slated it. Yeah, it's kind of annoying because I'm actually thinking I'm watching that tomorrow. But
Carla Gugino, how you say it?
I have no idea. Who
And
that is.
Bruce Greenwood. You'd know him if you saw him. They're the two people in the film.
What other things is Bruce Greenwood in?
He's in Star Trek. I think he's dad, isn't he? In Star Trek. He's in iRobot.
Oh, him! Yeah, in iRobot, he's the one who runs the company.
Yeah.
Yes, and he gets... Yeah. I know. He's in loads of things. He's in that new... one of the new films. Oh, Christ, I don't know what it's called. I think it's one of the more political films he's in, because he's got really short hair and they've dyed it black and it looks quite weird and he's wearing glasses. Yeah. But, okay.
And she's in Watchmen. She is Carla. She's Sally Jupiter, so she's Silk. Scepter's mum in the film.
Oh, her.
Yeah, she's the one that's drinking. She's a
Is
prostitute.
she the one who's in American Horror Story quite a lot as well? Is that the same woman?
Yeah, she's also in Sin City. She's on Sucker Punch. She's in quite a lot of stuff, actually.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
But yeah, the film is so small, and
it's so
what
big
film!
at the same time.
I'm probably going to go watch it again tonight because it was so good.
Yeah.
And there's some of the quotes in the film I'll probably use for the rest of my life.
Can you throw one at us?
No, because it'll ruin the film.
So you're just going to ruin it for everyone else.
So I'm not going to say that. But my friend Stephen, who I live with in Wales, after we watched the film and thought it was amazing, I went for a cigarette outside and I was terrified. I was like, oh God. And then the next day he posted, because me and him go for lots of walks outside, he posted this lovely photo of the Gower Peninsula where I live. And he quoted the movie from this being in the film. And it's so perfect. It just fits with this amazing view and stuff. And it's just, I was just like, that is the best hashtag I've ever seen on any photo ever.
Have to look that up there.
Fair play.
Okay, well, one of my honourable mentions, I mean, I already said at the start of the podcast, I already said about the disaster artist, and I've done a whole other podcast about that, so I won't talk about that anymore. You discussed 3 Billboards at nauseum, so we're great with that. Now, 2 of the films, I won't go into too much detail necessarily about these 2, but I think you share similar views of them, which is Thor 3 and Spider-Man Homecoming.
Yes.
Because when we mentioned...
Thor Ragnarok, yeah.
Yeah, because when we mentioned Logan, I said about the superhero films this year, I thought with Spider-Man Homecoming, I thought it's probably the best Spider-Man film out of all of them that have been out. I think Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man. I think the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies are better than the Andrew Garfield movies, but
Definitely.
I think Andrew Garfield's a better Spider-Man than Tobey Maguire, in my opinion.
Yeah.
However, I think Tom Holland, as soon as I saw him in Civil War, if you haven't seen him in Civil War, you need to go see that, because that film is one of the best Marvel films. And him in it, when he's fighting Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier throws a punch at him, and he holds Winter Soldier's fist and goes, "Oh man, you have a metal arm? That's so cool!" and then throws him away. I was like, that's Spider-Man all over. Especially because he's so young in the film, and that's the point. He's like, all these other superheroes have been doing loads of stuff, and I just found... I saw the trailers when Iron Man was in Spider-Man Homecoming, and I was like, oh, for Christ's sake. I was like, I don't need Robert Downey Jr. to be in every fucking Marvel film.
Yeah.
But I found that he was in it a good amount.
Yeah, he's perfect. There didn't need to be any more longer than it. He was perfect. He just did the parts and they were done perfectly.
I found it really worked for Spider-Man's character. I found it made the plot not the standard usual, oh, there's a bad guy, why don't you go fight him? Oh, you've been beaten by him a little bit. Oh, you come back somehow stronger and just destroy him. No, they changed it round. I won't spoil it, but a lot of people who are losing faith in superhero films because they say they're all the same. I'd say Homecoming really, really nailed it with the humour.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think it's the second best Spider-Man film ever made.
So what's your favourite Spider-Man film?
Spider-Man 2 is arguably one.
That's my least favourite out of all of them.
Arguably one of the best superhero movies ever, and it's one of the first ever to get nominated for an Oscar, which is saying something for visual effect. But that is obviously the top. But yeah, Homecoming just underneath. Definitely, they did nail it. And the villain is fantastic. I absolutely love the villain. I was rooting for him a lot.
Isn't it?
Michael Keaton, yeah. Second time that he's played some kind of Birdman.
Oh yeah, people said about that. I still haven't seen Birdman.
Oh, that's a very good film. But they... Yes, that was amazing.
I just want to say I don't agree with Spider-Man 2 being the best. Even though I know you, that's fine. But I don't want to get into a big...
like I said, one of us is right, one of us is wrong.
And it's definitely me is wrong, I guess. It's all down to opinion, but I think Spider-Man 2 is actually the worst of the trilogy, which a lot of people don't think that, because a lot of people think Spider-Man 3 is the worst.
Oh, yeah, God,
So
yeah.
I really like Spider-Man 3. I think there are... I look at Spider-Man 3 in a similar way that I look at Star Wars Attack of the Clones, which is... There are certain bits in it that are pretty bad and quite cringy, but I find that the good bits in it outweigh the bad bits a lot. And I just remember watching Spider-Man 2 and the whole time being bored. I had no interest in Doc Ock. I found him as a villain was just ruined compared to how cool Doc Ock is in the comics and games. And I found it was too similar to Spider-Man 1 without any of the impact, and almost the same sort of stuff happened in it.
When was the last time you watched it, though?
Oh, Christ. I haven't seen Spider-Man 1, 2, 3, none of them in the last 5 years, and I saw Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2 each once. And I think they're both good, but I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 isn't as bad as everyone said it was, but it could have been so good and it wasn't. And I just found, but then again, with Amazing Spider-Man 2, everyone hated it so much. I kind of went in with such low expectations. Yeah. Well, anyway, let's go on to the other honourable mention, which I think you want to talk about this a little bit more because you and the I think you like the director a bit more than I do, even though we both love the director. But yeah, Thor Ragnarok. Then
Oh yes.
I'll say just quickly, I think it's potentially the best. It's definitely in the top 3, I'd say, of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I'd say it's definitely the best Thor film. Definitely.
Easily. 4 films before this were okay. Like, they just fit in the slot of where they needed to be for the universe. But Chris Hemsworth has now created 4 and made 4 a character that everybody loves, I'd say now.
Yeah.
He was finding his place in the first 4 films, like
Yeah.
who the character's going to be. But he's now created the character, and I think the 4 that we're going to be getting now on is going to be so enjoyable and just so well done that I'm so happy with how they produced it. And yeah, Taika Waititi, or how you say, I probably butchered his name.
Taika Waititi, I think. He's in it. He's in Thor 3.
Yeah, he's one of the main characters, which is fantastic. And he has probably been my favourite director in the last couple of years, producing Hunt for the Wilder People and What We Do in the Shadows, which are amazing films. And I said just before I found out that he was directing Thor Ragnarok, so What We Do in the Shadows come out, no one really knew who he was. He produced a few TV stuff. And
he made the film Boy, didn't he?
Yeah, smaller stuff. And he got a bit of budget, so he did What We Do in the Shadows. He gave him a bit more budget, and then he produced What We Do, Hunt for the Wilder People. And then I said, that film was amazing. Then it's not going to be long until they give him a big budget movie. And they did. And
you said that actually to me.
I said it, yeah. I said it just before. They literally probably about a couple of weeks before Thor was revealed that he was going to be directing. And I was like, I knew it. I called it. Like, he'd done so well with such small budgets and casting that him with a Marvel film would just be perfect. And he did. He hit it out of the park. It's probably the funnest Marvel movie ever made.
Definitely. If people like Ant-Man,
so fun.
If people like Ant-Man and Spider-Man Homecoming, that sort of vibe. This film, when I've described it to other people and they go, I'm not sure about the new Thor, I say, go watch it, because literally, even though it's got some serious-ish themes, the whole film is just a whole joke almost, isn't it? Like, not
fantastic.
in a bad way. It doesn't take away from the film, but the whole time is super casual in a really well-done manner. And the way he interacts with Hulk and every character in it, they're all so sarcastic to each other. They've got some banter between them. That the chemistry is just amazing.
It's just amazing.
When his character in it, I think it's called Zorb or something. You'll see him in it because he's
Korg,
got like a New Zealand... Sorry?
Korg,
that's it.
Korg.
He's got this New Zealand accent, and he's like the Thing, but he's blue, and he's this rock guy. And he's just this really softly spoken... he's really big and dense. He looks kind of scary almost, but he's so well spoken and like really soft spoken as well. And it brings the whole character. And he played him, and he did all the motion capture for it as well. And
he nailed it. Nailed it.
And Hunt for the Wilder People, I'd say, if anyone hasn't seen that, you need to go fucking watch it. That's one of the best people films I've ever seen. I rewatched it the other day as well.
It's just amazing. And What We Do in the Shadows, they're just absolutely brilliant films.
Fantastic, yeah. And I wholeheartedly agree with Thor 3, but I think Ragnarok, I think everyone should go see that. Right, I've got one more film on my honourable mentions, and then I think we can move on to the bad films.
Yeah.
Have you got any more honourable mentions?
No, that's me done for honourable mentions.
Well, I'll just say, because you haven't seen this film, so I'll just briefly go into it. Blade Runner 2049. I didn't like Blade Runner, the original one. I watched it about 10 years ago, and I didn't like it. And I thought, maybe it's because of my age. You know, when I was a preteen, I hated a lot of films that were actually quite good. So I was like, I'll sit down properly with a couple of mates, me, Justin, and someone else. I can't remember. It might have been Callum. I can't remember. I watched it, and we watched it, and I really didn't like it. I thought it was quite boring. A lot of people are going to hate me for this, but I thought it was quite boring. I didn't really like any of the characters. I thought the plot was too slow, and I thought the way it all ended was just terrible. I thought the character arc made absolutely no sense at all. I think it was plot armor the whole way through, and I didn't like the whole feel of the movie. I really, really wasn't a fan. So I went into Blade Runner 2049 very sceptical. I mean, I love Harrison Ford because obviously Star Wars, and I think Ryan Gosling is one of the finest actors I've ever seen. Everything he's in is fucking unbelievable in. And then, this film came out, and it was like 2.5 hours long, and I kept putting it off. And I think I ended up and went and saw it by myself. And I watched that film, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. It's a little bit slow, but the character arcs work brilliantly in it. The only problem I found with it was that Jared Leto wasn't in it very much, and that isn't normally a problem because I'm not the hugest Jared Leto fan. But the trailers and the posters and everything about the film was like, he's going to be in it loads, he's the big villain, da, da, da. And then you watch the film, he's probably on screen for about 5-10 minutes. It's like a 2.5 hour movie. But yeah, I thought I was well surprised with it, and I found it's a great addition to the Blade Runner sort of universe. So I say to Alex and I say to everyone else, if you like or don't like the first Blade Runner movie, go watch this, because I think it's produced by Ridley Scott, but it's also produced by Dennis, whatever his name is, and he made Arrival.
Yeah, which is one of my favourite films last year.
Yeah, because I wasn't doing the podcast this time last year, and if I was, we'd have done that. And I know that Arrival, because in our Iron Movies, you gave that a ridiculously high percentage.
Oh, I thought it was perfect.
Yeah, so I didn't fully agree with you. I think it's a really, really, really good film.
But yeah, I did just miss out on seeing Blade Runner, but obviously I'm a huge fan of the original. Mike has only seen the final cut version, and every single cut makes the film a different version. So I'm just going to put that out so Mike knows as well. That
I saw the final cut, but I looked it up, and the final cut is, according to Ridley Scott, how he wanted it to be released. So, because it's basically, I think there's the final cut, and it's got this scene in it where Harrison Ford's playing the piano, and you see this dream sequence of a unicorn that's pretty pointless. And then there's the director's cut, which the only difference is it doesn't have that scene in.
No. So
there's 3 or 4 cuts, but one of the cuts is exactly the same as the final cut. It doesn't have that one sequence in.
So you got the theatrical cut, you got the director's cut, and you got the final cut. The theatrical cut doesn't have the voiceover of Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
So there's no voiceover, so you have to work out everything yourself. The director's cut has the voiceover plus with a few added scenes. Final cut has the voiceover plus the alternative scenes and also the dream sequence.
Yeah, dream sequence is
pointless. So, but if you watch, obviously, like I said, I'm not the same. But the first Blade Runner, if you can watch the theatrical cut without they're 3 different. They make the film totally different because obviously you got to work out things and have to work out how characters are.
A lot of interpretations are in it.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
Final cut is good. I do enjoy the final cut though.
That's fine. Yeah, obviously you haven't done their own opinion. So, right now we'll get into bad movies. I'll just quickly say my 3 bad movies, and then we'll get into the last one because your bad movie. We're gonna.
Yeah, I'm just gonna highlight one film.
Yeah,
because I think it's probably got I just need the shit on it basically.
Yeah, but I actually quite liked it, so that's why I want to save it to the end.
Yeah, that's fine.
I'll just quickly say because these 3 films you didn't actually see.
Yeah.
I'd say just quickly once again, if you guys follow me, I'll follow us rather on Instagram and see my reviews for this. You may be like, oh, but you didn't give that film that much of a bad review. But after hindsight and thinking about it a lot more, I would give it a lot lower reviews. There's the new Mummy, the remake of it. The first in the Dark Universe, big Universal series film thing. The new Mummy. Let's put it frank, it's shit. Okay, Tom Cruise is crap in it. The main person who plays the Mummy is shit in it. Russell Crowe's fairly good in it. His scenes are alright. The girl in it, she's in Peaky Blinders, and I really liked her in Peaky Blinders, and I thought her in that was pointless. There's so much plot armour, and the whole film is like, some reason Tom Cruise is kind of immortal, but it doesn't really explain it fully or what he can do. And the whole thing is just, everything that happens seems to just be because it happens in the film, and there's little consistency. There's a bit where Tom Cruise gets punched in the air and he literally goes like above tree lines and he lands and he's okay, and you're like, so is he immortal or is he not? There's a bit he's swimming underwater and you're like, oh, maybe he is immortal, but it's a fucking mess. Okay, it's terrible. I love the 3 original Mummy films with Brendan Fraser. The fact there's no cameo by Brendan Fraser either is fucking upsetting and deeply upsetting to me. They should have fucking had that in. So yeah, that film's rubbish. I saw a film called Atomic Blonde, as Charlize Theron and James McAvoy. It's the only James McAvoy film I've seen which is bad. I just thought the plot was messy, it was really boring, I didn't really give a shit what was going on, and it seemed to be a bit too flashy and not really any substance. And then the other film, which I think this is the worst film of all year, was Annabelle. I can't remember what it's called. It's Annabelle Creation, that was it. It's meant to be the prequel to the other Annabelle that came out a couple of years ago. I don't know if it's linked in with I think it is linked in with the Conjuring universe. Of films,
well, yeah, Annabelle's from the Conjuring.
Yeah, and I really like the Conjuring films I've seen. I thought Annabelle was pile of wank. I thought it was boring.
Yeah, I've seen Annabelle.
Annabelle Creation was wank, right? I haven't seen the original, but I thought it was predictable. It was boring. No characters in it. Didn't act like they did that stupid horror trope thing where they just go to every room. Oh man, I hear a noise. Well, the last 2 hours of my life have been nothing but horror, but I'm going to go into a dark room by myself. It's like, but this is boring and there's no need to see it. The jump scares were predictable. The gore in it wasn't that great, and even if it was, it wouldn't save the film. And yeah, I just found it just fell flat on its face. So Annabelle's shit, Atomic Blonde's not very good, and The Mummy is shit. So with that in mind, we're coming to the hour and 15 mark, so we'll be wrapping up in a minute, but let's just get on to the final film we're going to discuss, What, Alex, do you think the worst film that you've seen this year is?
The biggest part of dog shit that came out of the cinema this year has got to be Justice League.
And this is why we're polar on this.
Fucking
Because you hate
letdown.
Suicide Squad as well. You think that's one of the worst films ever as well, don't you?
I do not enjoy that at all. But at least Suicide Squad had some tiny parts of redeeming.
You think Suicide Squad's better than fucking Justice League?
But no. I would say it's more redeem. I would say they're both in the garbage. They're both a pile of shit. Both of them would give under 10%. But everybody thought so. Wonder Woman come out, absolutely brilliant film. It was absolutely great. The best DC film they'd made since The Dark Knight, which obviously The Dark Knight was way above it, but it was still probably one of the best ones they brought out.
Which one's that specifically?
The Dark Knight.
No. I thought you were talking about Wonder Woman.
The Wonder Woman, yeah. Since The Dark Knight, the Wonder Woman was probably the best DC film they'd made.
I think I'd agree with you there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and that was brilliant. So everybody kind of had faith again in Justice League, and from the abomination that was Batman vs Superman, you would think that the director would go home, he would take in all the criticism, everything from it, and he'd be like, "Look, this is what we went wrong. There's the fucking huge list of things we did wrong, and here's the non-existent stuff that we did right. And I'm going to incorporate all these things for the fans, because obviously the fans are the ones that fucking matter, the ones that are going to pay the money." But he did nothing. He absolutely butchered everybody's kind of faith again back into Wonder Woman. It's the least Zack Snyder-y film ever made. I don't think he had much put into the whole film, which is a shame.
You were talking about Wonder Woman or Justice League?
Justice League now.
Okay, yeah.
So the directors just looked at everything that they did wrong in Batman vs Superman and thought, you know what, fuck them. We're just going to ignore everything and we're just going to make this film. And they did. And it came out and it was absolute dog shit. Like, and I'm being extra harsh on it because of how much time they had to correct the issues they had from Batman vs Superman, and the issues they have in Justice League are exactly the same as they had in Batman vs Superman. Exactly the same issues. So they didn't take anybody on board. They just put these characters together, hoped it would work. Some people thought it did, some people didn't. The chemistry didn't work for me. The jokes were absolute dog shit. Superman was only good. I hate Superman.
I hate Superman.
I think he's the most boring. I don't like any of the films he's been in.
Yeah.
But he's the only good character in the film, and he's only not in it for too much. I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not spoiling. He's back anyway. Fucking hell. But it's pretty obvious. For
in the trailer,
sake.
when you got Buddy Alfred looking up and go,
stupid.
"Oh, I thought you'd come back. Took you long enough." It's
I know,
well, yeah.
it's so
and
stupid.
If anyone watched, I want to clarify. I want to say, Batman vs Superman, I think, is one of, if not the worst superhero film I've ever seen in my life.
Definitely dog
maybe
shite.
Hulk, but then again, Hulk is shit, but it's like consistently pretty bad.
Yeah.
But with Batman vs Superman, not only is it almost 3 hours long, but it's also there's parts in it, like mainly the Batman scene when he's by himself in the fighting all the gang. It's like that shows they can do well, but they were so misguided with it. Okay, well with Justice League, I actually really like Justice League. I don't think it's as good as Wonder Woman. I think it's better than Suicide Squad. But I also didn't hate Suicide Squad. I just thought it was alright, or fairly good-ish, but not amazing. It was very flawed. With Justice League, now I looked at quite a few things about Justice League, and what I'm generally seeing is the critics generally hate it, but most of the audience are alright with it, kind of like I am. Like Rotten Tomatoes is a good example. Critics, 40, audience, 80. And I've noticed that you and I, where we differ a fair amount, is you are... I don't know how it is, but you generally lean more towards what the critics say, and I generally don't. And I think that's what kind of makes our movie page and these sort of discussions so good, because we like different things about films. I found with Justice League, I thought it wasn't too long. It's 2 hours, which is good, because Batman vs Superman fucking dragged like hell, and that was awful. And I want to clarify, I fucking hate Batman vs Superman. I thought the film was shit, and none made any sense, and boring, and the math of it, oh god, all of it. Except the Batman scene where he's fighting the thugs. I found Justice League, I found it introduced all the characters quite well. I liked the way the characters were most of the time. I liked Ben Affleck's Batman less than I liked him in Batman vs Superman. I hate Superman, but I found the way they brought him into Justice League without spoiling anything was tasteful and well done. And I found they've kind of written themselves into a corner, because in the film, the entire time they're saying Superman is so unbelievably powerful, he can beat anyone, we really need him to save us, sort of thing. And then it's just like, well, you've now said this, and at the it kind of proves that he is, because obviously he comes back. And it's like, well, now you've kind of said he's so much more powerful than all of the Justice League put together. it's almost pointless them being there because he's so overpowered. And,
Yeah.
you know, Doomsday is meant to be this big thing, and they just do shit, and you know they kill him in a really pithy, rubbish way. But now it's like, who are you going to have in future Justice League movies who's going to be a big enough villain that somehow Superman can't fight, but everyone else can? And it's just like, what? I thought the humour in it, I thought it wasn't as funny as it could have been, but it was definitely funnier than the previous films. And I found it felt more like a Marvel film than a DC film. You know, it felt more like Avengers than it did Batman vs Superman. I found the action scenes in it were quite good. I found the main boss in it, villain rather, was shit. But
Awful.
But a lot of people said that, but I just stand by that every Marvel film has a shit villain, really. Like, not shit, but it's just really forgettable. And they're all generally the same. I mean, you get Loki in it, you know, who's a bit different. And there's like 19 Marvel movies now, so there are a couple of villains that are all right. But I say, generally speaking, you know, the villain in Thor 2 and the villain in Ant-Man and all these sorts of other ones, they're all just so forgettable and boring. And the same way they die is pretty much unanimous. But I thought Aquaman in it was hilarious. I thought Jason Momoa in it was brilliant. And I really liked Aquaman's character of just being like, not giving a crap about anyone sort of mentality, but he kind of does. I liked the Flash in it. I thought he was funny. I liked Wonder Woman in it. I thought she was good. I like the Cyborg character, which is he actually Cyborg?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
I remember Teen Titans and there being Cyborg, and I'm pretty sure that Teen Titans are based on the DC characters and stuff like almost like Young Justice League and whatnot. But
Yeah.
won't go into that. But I thought it was a good movie. But I just found what it seems to be is everything that we speak about, it's more just interpretation. Like, you thought the humour didn't land, I thought it did. You thought everything in it was like there's no chemistry between the characters. I thought they made it work well because clearly at the start there wasn't chemistry between characters, but they kind of showed you there wasn't, and showed that it's not always like Avengers where you can team up and everyone's all happy already and yay, we can work together. Oh, the Hulk's being a bit bad. Oh no, we're all happy again and fine. Occasionally yell at each other. It was like Justice League was a bit more, we all hate each other, we've got to fucking deal with it sort of thing. And I'll rewatch it at some point. I didn't like it enough to buy it.
No, yeah.
Well, you definitely won't. But
No, God no. I'll never watch it again.
I was tempted to buy it, but I kind of didn't. But it's a weird one with Justice League because I can't remember if I saw it with someone else. I think I saw it with Callum, and I can't remember what he thought about it.
Yeah.
But I think Justice League is a hard one because it's similar-ish to Avengers, but it's kind of in Avengers' shadow. And it's one of those things where I'm generally pretty easygoing when it comes to superhero films. I generally enjoy all of them, but fucking Batman, Superman, and Man of Steel, both those films suck. But
my take on it is, in 50 years' time, if I'm sat around with my family, a couple of kids, my wife, and we decide to watch a movie one night, and one of my kids goes, "Can we watch Justice League?" That'll be the fastest divorce and kids up for adoption you could ever see. I will be out that door and disown everybody who's ever wanted to recommend, could we watch Justice League? I honestly, I'm putting that to...
I'll make sure I never recommend Justice League then.
Yeah,
I'll
be out.
If I have kids and they like Star Wars are out, I've said that. Like, when I have a kid, I just want you to know, if you get into drugs, you know, you do this, you do that, I'll forgive you and I'll try and help you. But if you tell me Star Wars is shit, you're fucking gone. That's
You're
it.
gone,
There's
mate.
no...
Dead to me.
Yeah, you can
Dead
have...
to me.
You're dead to me. Where is she? You can not... You don't have to love the Star Wars films. You don't have to say they're all perfect because they're definitely very flawed. But if you hate them
Jar Jar Binks.
fuck you. Yeah, you said Jar Jar Binks so many times in this podcast.
I know. Say it 3 times in the mirror and he appears.
Oh God.
Misa.
Anyway, I think we're coming up to the hour and a half mark now, so I think we'll wrap this up. So yeah, we did miss a couple of films out, but obviously we're only two guys. We don't get to see every single film that comes out. And
Yeah.
there's quite a few like direct to
We're only
DVD
human.
movies. There's DVDs. There's films that come out on Netflix. There's all kinds of other stuff. But yeah, so there's some films that we really recommend. Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, we'll you guys let us know what you think, you know, on social media and all that sort of jazz. You know, I'm just always happy to hear feedback and let us know what you think about all these sorts of films, if you disagree, if you agree, blah blah blah. And make sure you follow us at I Am Movies, the Instagram page. I'll link it in the info of this podcast as well. And obviously be sure to follow this podcast on Instagram. That's Genuine Chit-Chat. I think that's really it.
Definitely.
We've been talking about movies now for an hour and a half, and in fact it's so long now it's starting to get dark in my lounge. So
I know.
I think it's pretty much time to wrap up. So yeah, it's been a pleasure talking to you, Alex.
Thank you for having me.
No worries at all. And yeah, I'll speak to you guys later.
Bye bye.
And there we are. That's the end of the episode. Thanks as always for listening, guys. As I said at the start of the podcast, me and Alex do have an Instagram page called I Am Movies. So if you liked the way we sort of our opinions on movies and that sort of thing, and if you're into steelbooks, we occasionally post about when new trailers come out and new artwork and just sort of things that interest us about movies, as well as we both have Odeon Limitless cards, so we go to the cinema quite often and see quite a lot of new movies. So if you're interested in our takes on new movies, be sure to follow us there. We do also have a Facebook page, but we're a bit more active on Instagram. Yeah, next week, as I said at the start as well, I'm with Bradley. Well, I'm not actually going to be with Bradley, unfortunately, even though I do love him and wish I was with him. I'm partially joking, but not as much as you probably would like to think. Yeah, so the podcast part 1 will be released next week, and then obviously part 2 the following week. As I said, I can't really remember what we spoke about, and I'm too lazy to listen to the podcast now. So, sorry guys, I'm just terrible. I'm a terrible human being. Anyway, don't forget to follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Well, that's on obviously Genuine Chit-Chat, as well as I Am Movies if you fancy. But I Am Movies not on Twitter, so yeah. And also subscribe to us, on all the usual podcast apps, on YouTube, all that sort of thing, iTunes reviews, blah blah blah. You probably know the drill by now. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you, and I'll be back next week.